Hey guys, and welcome to the new episode of Automated Seller Podcast. Today I have a new guest, Elizabeth from Junglr. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. So, Elizabeth is a co-founder of Amazon advertisement agency called Junglr. And yes, first of all, Elizabeth, if you could tell your story before co-founding this agency, were you actually a seller or how did you learn Amazon?
Yeah. So seller, very small time. Although full time, I was a stay-at-home mom. So I have 6 children. Life kept me busy. We're trying to get a side hustle on to be able to bring the family together, which is what we had wanted. And so that, of course, led to one of the greatest side hustles of all time, which is Amazon, which, of course, led me to Amazon ads. Turns out that I really like running ads. I would have never considered myself somebody who would probably know the first thing about data or data analytics. I had to learn on the fly when we started selling and fell deeply in love with it. And this was around, gosh, I'm trying to think timelines, but I want to say it was like 2018 when I started to get more into like the Facebook groups.
Mhm.
The Facebook groups honestly are a little bit dead these days, but back in the day they were super hopping. And the context there was people were still asking, should I run Amazon ads? Nowadays, everyone's like, how do I run
Yeah.
it? But the conversation back then was, should I run it? And if I do run it, how do I
How to do?
even do this thing? For those of you who've been in it for a little bit, think of before the targeting types got split out in the auto, like how many updates have we had since then? I can't even wrap my brain around it, but that was where people kind of were. And so I was like, well, everyone's asking these questions. Turns out I have answers. And so I would just answer the questions. And of course, that led to somebody being like, hey, I don't want to have to deal with this. Is this something you do? And I was like, yeah, I guess I could. And so that's kind of our origin stories and just been growing ever since.
So you actually started to helping those people on the Facebook groups, and then
Hmm.
it kind of turned to the agency work more. I mean, you that's
Yeah.
how you get your first clients, right? So you are running
Yep.
their accounts, but before you actually learn to run Amazon advertisement in a hard way just by doing it
Hmm.
on your own, right?
Yeah.
I wonder. So you said 2018. Actually, I don't know, because especially like I'm from Poland and Amazon here is super new. I lived in Germany for 3 years, so I
Hmm.
actually started using it there. But
Mm.
still, like 2018, I really wonder, did you have any like online resources to even learn it? Because right now, obviously, there's so many, first of all, fake gurus who are running those scammy
Hmm.
courses, but on the other hand, you have great resources as well. I also hosted couple of guests here. For example, Brandon Young. I know that he's running great community seller systems when he teaches a lot of things about Amazon. So obviously, right now you have resources, but back then, how was the situation?
Yeah. So I wasn't the first wave of people who are trying to figure it out. So I definitely am appreciative that I did have a leg up in some way. So it wasn't like when it first came out. Of course, I wasn't in the heydays of like 5 cent cost per clicks either. Like they were much higher cost per clicks, and I got into them and more complicated. So in like the beginning, OG, it's like typical, like you run autos. So that like that whole strategy of like running autos and then migrating whatever converted in those and like kind of up the funnel, like very typical um sort of crossover from your Google ad strategy, that was still quite prevalent. But there was more keyword research tools. There were keyword research tools available when I came out. Of course, not search query
Hmm.
performance data and not as robust as they are now. However, there was still a decent amount of support. There wasn't as many pillars in the community. I want to say obviously Brian Johnson, like absolute OG. So he put out a lot of good content. I remember watching a lot of good content from Jungle Scout, obviously Destiny, still putting out a lot of good content. I think Sean Smith had wound down his content slightly, but he still had some stuff out. So there were still like people who had pioneered before me that I highly
Hmm.
appreciated getting that context. So I did have that, but definitely School of Hard Knocks learning, which I have like pros and cons to everything. So I mean, like the cons is like I feel like there's a lot of stuff I went about it the hard way, but I am highly appreciative of everything I've learned up to this point. Because even though I look back at what I was learning, I'm like, don't have to struggle that hard. But I'm
Oh yeah.
also like, there's so many things that I know now. And like how to look at data or how to like a lot of it was trying to like build my own manual solutions using spreadsheets and downloaded reports. So I got a really good intense look at like how data points mesh when there's discrepancies, like how do you like basically sort of taught myself data cleaning and data analysis and like all of that stuff was it's all self-taught, and that's how I like learning, honestly. Like my favorite way to learn is to get a project. I don't really like courses because my brain like I need to attack the problem head on. So my favorite thing to do is like figure out a problem that I want to solve, dive heart
Yeah.
like head first into that problem, get in water up to my neck where I can barely tread, but I can tread enough to figure it out. And then, so my learning curve is exponential, but I'll be honest, it's a bit of a painful process.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, it's the same with me. Like when I learned how to code, there's so many courses, but
Mm,
every time I was just going through the course, I was almost falling asleep. So
yeah.
I actually learned it by doing a lot of projects. So I can see like a comparison here. You just learn it by doing.
Hmm.
I actually didn't ask you, what did you sell like when you started? And are you actually still selling the products, or you are just fully focused on agency right now?
Yeah, so fully focused on the agency. I like being able to direct my attention to one thing. That's actually really, really worked for me. That's why we're strictly ad management, and we haven't added on additional services. Is because like I can raise my hand and say like we are one of the best when it comes to Amazon advertising management. I would prefer to say that about anything we do, and so I don't feel like I feel like I could learn almost anything at this point, but as you grow and gain knowledge, it's not about what you could do, it's what should I be focused on, and so I've just made the elected
Totally.
decision that this is what we're going to be focused on.
Yeah.
So yeah, not currently selling. We had so like I said, times blur because like I said, I have a lot of kids and I was pregnant a lot. So between that, like selling, part of the winding down process was I had twins. And then that was a little bit rough to go through, if I'm being honest. Like newborn babies I can handle, two at once. It's just a bit much. I got through it. I'm super grateful for it, but it was a trip. So a lot of things like when stuff comes up in life and you're like, if we all ate today, it was a good day. When you're functioning like that, like trying to run a business on top of that is a bit much. So
Totally.
it just kind of naturally wound down.
And what were you selling actually back then?
Yeah, so it was replenishable home goods.
Okay, got it. So yeah, Elizabeth, then let's focus on actual agency part and working with your clients. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say I'm interested in like I'm already selling something, and I would be interested into getting to the advertisement. However, I have the funds. I don't have the time to do that, so I
Mm-hmm.
approach you. How the typical collaboration with you work? Like how do you approach working with your clients? Do you have like some strategies that you actually develop to them? Do you manage their accounts fully? How does it work?
Yeah. So it's definitely hands off on their end as far as the ads go. Or the actual development of the ads and the ad strategy, I would say. I always tell clients like my goal is for you all to be able to run your business, but not have to worry about how does my ad strategy fit into that. So you'll find like we've been doing this for a while, but we've recently like kind of carried that over to our audit process as well. I have a very top-down approach to running ads, as opposed to what I consider like more of a bottom-up approach. So oftentimes if you go in for an audit, right, which is very standard in our industry. Like, let's do an ad audit. People do that even regardless if they're looking for another solution. They just want to know, like, hey, what's going on? I don't know what I don't know. Like, what should I be focused on? And so a lot of ad audits will go into your account and they'll say, okay, like, you don't have a full funnel build out for, this product line. You have negative keywords that need to be added here. Here, everything's running. You told me your target's 25% ACoS, but here's, a list of keywords that are running over your target ACoS. Those evaluations are good. But what I find is that they're not business centric. And what I mean by that is I highly believe that your ad strategy should flow from your business goals. It shouldn't be, what I never want to do is get into account and say, this is the good way to run ads. Because let's be honest, there's best practices and there's things that are good and things that are, pros and cons. But I don't want to get into account and say, okay, this is what good looks like, so I must blanket apply good to your entire ad account. So that's essentially my thesis. And then, so our strategy is highly built around that. And so we actually have a three-step approach. And so again, we've carried that over to our audit. So consequently, our audit there's like 4 steps in it essentially, but it's like a three-tiered approach, you can say. So one of those tiers is looking at your account, your overall account. So we along the way have started managing quite complex accounts. Complex being many SKUs, many ASINs, many listings.
And marketplace is also probably multiple marketplaces.
So take a clothing account and multiply that across 5 different marketplaces, and you can imagine the struggle that it is to make sense of something like that. And so what we would find is oftentimes the business owners would be handing out directives. Like, I need you to focus on this. I need you to focus on that. I need you to focus on this, which we always did because we wanted to be helpful. But then oftentimes what would happen is the business owner was going, okay, I think you need to focus on this for the ads. And then they would come back to us 3 or 4 months later and say, like, oh, wait, we just had you focus on something that actually isn't driving results for our business because it's not a huge piece of our revenue stream. And wait, we need you to pivot to this and pivot to that. And we've done, and we ended up doing enough of those pivots. I was like, there has to be a better way for us to look at that. And so the better way that we've come up with is, it's very simple. It sounds so stupid simple when you hear it, but it's percentages of total. Essentially, what is the contribution to the total that this one product is driving? Because at the end of the day, our account, even though most people look at my sales, you hear, oh, I have X amount of sales. I have X amount, my ACoS is X, my total ACoS is X. All of those things are built up of individual products. So then my question is, which of these products is driving good performance and which of these products is driving poor performance, and what places in the account do we need to tweak to be able to drive that performance? So essentially, like I said, that's baked into our audit is, what is the overall account? How are the trends on an account level, right? What are the business objectives? How are these trends hitting and or not hitting those objectives? And then based on the account, so goes the product, so goes the account, then that second tier, which is what I find that most audits miss, is actually like this middle tier of, so that you look at the account, say like, my sales are this, my ACoS is this, my total ACoS is this, I need to hit X. Okay, great. And then they'll jump down into the ad strategy. So they'll go, okay, ACoS is this, great. To lower ACoS, I need to lower the ad spend. So therefore, I'm going to jump in and figure out all the places I need to lower ad spend, which is not a bad approach. But what we've discovered is oftentimes if all you're looking at in the account is, what are my targets above X ACoS, sometimes you're optimizing spend on a product that's driving like 1% of total sales contribution or 1% of total spend contribution. And when that happens, the amount you're moving the needle is marginal. Like I did an analysis the other day and I'm like, you could literally spend 100% on this one product and you're not even going to move the top line numbers by like a point. It's like ridiculously small. but that's where all the inefficiencies are when you look at it from strictly an ad perspective. So this middle perspective goes, okay, what are my trends? Where are they going? And how does that connect to my ads? We actually have 2 custom reports we've built that allow us, I mean, like I could go into an account today with, I think we
What do you mean
do.
custom reports? Like you developed some kind of tool that
Mhm.
helps you to develop those strategies, or how does
Yep.
it work?
Yep. So it's essentially that. So we have
Mm-hmm.
2 custom reports. One of them that's looking at on a per product level, where are trends? Because again, we're looking at trends on the account level. We want to marry that down into the per product level and what's happening right now. And then we have another report that I'm super proud of. It's literally been a brainchild of mine for probably 2 or 3 years now, and we finally got
Mm-hmm.
it developed in a way that's like manageable, because before, oh my gosh, to put this thing together was ridiculous. So we have some automations behind it now, but it's essentially mirroring the per product down to the ads. So this connecting of things on a per product level, then being able to quickly slice and dice what's happening in the ads, and then being able to relate the two together, has allowed us to be kind of next level with when, like, where do we allocate stuff, what,
Mm-hmm.
where are the efficiencies, where are the inefficiencies, and then like where do we need to spend our time.
Got it. And for the actual management of the client's accounts, do you use some other software, or you have also something built custom?
Yeah, so it's a hybrid of both. For analytics, I have realized that data pulling, cleaning, really when it comes to data analysis, I think you can build some pretty sophisticated things custom, which is again part of our custom reports. Um, but for looking at things over time, that's a heck of a lot of data to pull. So it doesn't make
Mm-hmm.
sense to do that manually. So what we've done is we partner with a tool called KPOC. I love their analytics. Like, we've been really digging into analytics as a team, because honestly, I think that's what takes a good account manager and makes them a rock star, is to be the ability to read the story in the analytics. So we're heavily focused on that, and KPOC has been a huge part of that for us. But then as far as taking those insights and then making sure that's applied to the account, we've built some pretty good, I say pretty good, I'm pretty proud of our internal systems for management. So we
Mm-hmm.
haven't fully integrated with KPOC for some of those management structures, because we've been able to get some really stellar results with internal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a hybrid.
Awesome. So actually, if you build some of those tools, you probably don't have to pay the percentage of the ad spend,
Yeah.
because I know that a lot of agencies actually really complain about those. I mean, there are great tools out there, but it's extremely hard to predict profit of your business. I'm not talking
Mm-hmm.
about the actual management of the client, but actual agency business model. So that's why, for example, people also go to us and request custom tools for
Yeah.
ad management, because it's just so freaking expensive sometimes. So I was just really curious, and I always love to hear stories about custom tools in the Amazon space, since this is our
Mm-hmm.
niche. So Elizabeth, one more question regarding actually managing your clients. Is there like a minimum budget that the client should consider spending when even working with you, or just like going into ads and trying by
Yeah.
them own?
Yeah. So I say in the beginning, um, as much as some new sellers don't want to manage ads themselves, you figure out a lot. I think I would prefer probably clients who have at least a bit of an understanding of the ad account.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as who we work best with, so we've actually recently like hyper identified like who we work best with and who we get the best results with. So it tends to be brands who are doing like between $1 and $5 million a year already. They have a solid brand in place and they're really looking to scale. But with their current ad structures, they're just struggling and they haven't been able to really figure out how their ads can help support that accelerated growth that they're looking for. And at this point, it doesn't really make sense for them to hire an internal team member because costs there. So what they're looking for is they're like, look, I need someone to be able to drive the innovations on my account, right? Like at this point, I'm a big enough brand owner. It doesn't make sense for me to be even the weeds. Even if they are someone who really enjoys ads, they're realizing, like, even me as a business owner, I'm like, oh, I was even like going to write an SOP today. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I need to be delegating these things. So they're realizing they're like at the point they're like, I need to delegate. I need to actually like run my business, the whole in the business, on the business kind of dynamic. But yet I'm realizing that ads are roughly 50% of my business at this point. So it's a very, very important and integral piece to be able to get right. And I need someone who's going to keep up with the constant updates, innovate on strategy, make sure that they're, again, in the analytics, driving these things, helping me know what's prioritized in my business. Because some of these brands are coming to us and they're like, look, I know these are my best sellers, but like, have I reached the top of the mountain with these things? Is there anywhere else in the catalog? Like, I want to be able to say, okay, inventory is this is this. I have, I'm over positioned here, I'm under positioned here. Figure it out. Like, don't make me think about it. You're like, okay, that's what we work best with.
Got it. Since we actually started talking about clients, could you share one of your best actually success stories? Someone that you help your clients scale, I don't know, maybe twice
I
or
think
3x.
one of my favorites, and this is a client that like, he's so awesome to work with, and that he has very specific directives, meaning like, my goals are this, I have this much budget, I'm okay with these variables, go. And I have one of my account managers who's like absolute rock star. So I mean, like, communication with him is on point, messaging back and forth. And we were managing another account of his, and he wanted to start up this new account because it was a completely different product vertical. And so we actually took him from 0 to 800K.
What do you mean from zero? Like that the client
Zero.
just
So
started?
beginning of the account, like brand new account, nothing
really?
to it, nothing in it, brand new products. We took that to like 800K. I want to say it was in 3 to 4 months.
Oh wow, that's really impressive.
Now I will say, for everyone listening, oh my gosh, one, he had very aggressive growth goals. Two, he was okay with certain profit allowances because of those growth goals. And we also hit seasonality in there. So there's variables that are going to, like, results may vary, asterisks, like those kind of.
But did you actually help also this client to get on Amazon? And because, I know that you are specializing on an Amazon advertisement, but do you also do some other Amazon services, like actually listing optimization, SEO, all those kind of services? So you help the client also to properly set up the Amazon account and get there?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So no, we don't work best with those clients. I will get clients coming to me. I actually had a couple other people message, like, get on a sales call, and they would say, okay, like, I want this, this, and this, and they think it's an ad piece. And I'm like, well, actually, it sounds like you need all of these things. So that would be full service. So if you need full service, I have people I can refer you to, because I'm not going to be the best fit for everyone. And I'm totally fine with that. So we work best with clients who have an account set up, or in this case, this client was highly familiar with the process. He was highly familiar with how to set up the Amazon account. He was just like, I need the ad piece because I know how to do the listings, product development, all of the above. So we did take him 0, again, to 800K and then climbing, but he wasn't unfamiliar with the platform. And I don't typically take on startup accounts because there's so many variables in the beginning, and for them to pay, my management fees, oftentimes, depending on where the client is, it probably is not going to be a good fit. And again, I'm not opposed to saying like, hey, like, I'm not going to be the greatest fit at this time. Let me have some people I can refer you to. Like, we had one brand who we did an audit for her, and I was like, oh, this seems super interesting. I love your, I love your thought process. I love how you're doing this. I don't think you're at the stage to need me right now as much as you want to outsource this piece. So let me just give you some tips. So I did the audit for her, gave her some information, sent her on her way. And she came back to me a year later, like, ready to go. She'd implemented everything, and like, we've onboarded her since, and it's doing great. So it just depends, again, on what stage you are and what you need.
Totally. Got it. Now, speaking from your perspective as an expert, what are the biggest challenges at the moment to actually successfully run Amazon ads?
Yeah, so many of the moving pieces, and contextualizing the data, I think, is the thing that it's quite different or difficult. And I think it mainly goes off of how competitive the ads are right now. Like it's these things
What do you
that
mean? Does it depends on the like a niche of the product, like the product
yeah,
category,
so
or?
niche of the product or how high the cost per clicks are climbing. So for instance, like
Mhm.
there was a certain account we were running that we wanted to get more competitive on a specific keyword to rank. 2 weeks ago, the cost per click on that was like $3, and then we ran it to get more aggressive. And this was a little bit post Prime Day, so I think post day, like Prime Day, hadn't like calmed down quite yet. But the cost per clicks they jumped to like $5. It's
Oh wow.
ridiculous, you know. So at that point, it's like, okay, is it worth it for us to run on this, or you know, like how are we going to approach this? So I mean, the
Mhm.
approach was let's go find different keywords.
Mhm.
But that's what's making it, I think, more complicated these days is just the high cost of advertising,
Yeah.
which is very normal for an ad platform. Like Facebook, everyone's talking about Facebook ads have gone up, Google ads have gone up. Like Amazon is not, it's not the only ad platform that is facing rising costs. Like it's
I f-
kind of the nature of the beast, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the most overall, like I think the most expensive platform to run ads. I'm not talking about like product ads, but overall ads is LinkedIn. When you actually try to target a certain like CEO or someone like this, I've seen ads like $30 a click, for example. So
Yeah.
you are totally right, actually. So actually, are there any cases where a client comes to you with a certain product categories? I don't know, might be some home goods, and basically you say, hey, within this budget, like since this category is so saturated, like there's no way that we will help you there. Did you actually had to reject someone because of the budgets that you said, hey, this is not realistic, we cannot do anything
Yeah.
here with?
Yeah.
Is it actually
So
common also?
yeah, so at this point, I don't know if it's super common. At this point, one of our evaluations on taking clients is honestly the brand owner. There are some accounts where the opportunity seems quite interesting. And all things considered, it would probably be a really great account. But the thing that makes it, there are those accounts that the only reason it's difficult is because of the brand owner. So I've been around the block enough, I've seen enough that I'm not always great at, you know, like there's always people who slip through the cracks, but for the most part, I do kind of gauge it off of brand. So for instance, if you are struggling, so the same account struggling with conversion rates, right? One brand owner will say, I can't understand why my products will not sell. I used to do X 2 years ago and I
And it
can't,
worked.
and it
And now it
used
does.
to work. So it should work. Ads are obviously the problem. We need to go figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Another brand owner will say, my products are not converting. We need to figure out why. And it could be the ads, but I need to figure out how to attack it. And the difference is honestly, and again, it's gonna sound super cliche, like every single motivational speaker ever, but it's like
Mindset.
the whole like giving up of your power, as in like, so when you say like, oh, I don't know, it's Amazon's problem, it's way too competitive, that means if it's someone else's problem, there's nothing you can do about it. Versus hey, what's going on? How do we attack this? Let's make a game plan. So for instance, I had a client call earlier today, right? He's like, oh, I've kind of took my eye off this product. It's not moving. He goes, I have X amount of units. We have to sell them out by the end of the year because we have an expiration date on these. So you know what? I'm looking at it. I'm calculating what removal fees are going to cost. I'm calculating what my storage shipping fees are going to do. He goes, if I do X, I'm going to be losing $6.50 a unit. So therefore, I'm going to drop my price. We're going to push ads. So because I've already calculated my losses, I could go up to $6. We're not trying to run that backwards, but he's like, I could actually run negative on my units because I'm dropping price and I'm adding coupons and I'm adding ads to it because he's got a lot of units and he's got to move them. And he goes, So I've already calculated it, and we're going to drop this, and we're going to get the conversion rates. And so we're going back and forth. He's like, oh, should I drop it by this much? We're like, yeah, we've already dropped it $2. We're already seeing increases in conversion rates. Here's the increases. Cool. What else can we do about it? Can we push ads? Can we do? And it's like, it's this attacking of a problem. And it's like, all right, shoot, I might be losing money on these, but I'm not going to be losing as much as I'm going. I mean, like, so he's calculating, we're making a game plan, we're implementing it, and we're going to hit the number, and we'll be fine. That's a
Totally.
very different dynamic than,
Oh yeah.
oh
I
crap,
really
I
like
have
this
all these
approach.
units.
Yeah. So actually, you already started to answer it, like my last question, but maybe you can continue here. So I wanted to actually ask about the most common mistakes that Amazon sellers do when it comes to running like ads on Amazon.
Probably, so if a brand owner is setting it up themselves, most common things I see is incorrect targeting, meaning they have they're starting to target keywords that are way too competitive, and they have way too low a budget to have any business running on those keywords. That's probably the most common mistake. Actually, a really good rule of thumb to figure out if your ads have poor targeting. Again, asterisks if you're running like really aggressive top of funnel, like broad market strategies, don't listen to this. But if you go into your account and your ad conversion rates are below your unit session percentage, it's probably a pretty good clue. Because typically speaking, again, not always, and this is if we're going hyper targeted, maybe again less broad brand aware strategies, your ad conversion rate should be higher than your unit session percentage.
Got it. Thanks, Elizabeth. That was actually really informative session. You shared a lot of details. So I'm having a couple of guests here running advertisement agencies, but you actually really gave us the juice. So thank you for that. And yeah, for last few words, if you could say where people can find you, and how can they start working with Junglr.
Yeah, so the best place is definitely going to be our website. There is a form, or not form, it's a Calendly link at the bottom. You can set up a call with us, and I'll probably be the one on that call, and we can talk again. We'll go through that process. First step is figuring out goals. So that's what that first call is about. What are your goals? And then we look into how we can build an ad strategy off of that. Would be the best place.
Awesome. I will make sure also to include all of the links you give me in the description of this podcast. So if you're listening on a Spotify or a YouTube or Amazon podcast or whatever, I think I'm running it on like 10 different platforms, then there will be information about that. So yeah, Elizabeth, thanks a lot for being here. And yeah, talk to you soon.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Bye-bye.